Hey, so this video is about buying time, and by that I mean buying time to move from one position of the fretboard to another without a big gap in the sound, so the music's like continuous. And in that little piece I just played as an example, there's two main things I use to achieve that. One is open strings and the other is harmonics. So just the very first lick, you can see I end on an open D string, and that gives me time to move into my next C major position. So I went, and that's just like a little C major thing. And then on the D major portion of the lick, instead of playing the ascending run in this fashion, I actually incorporated 3 open strings to not only make it ring a little more, but to give me a chance to get back to start the next part in the G major position. So I actually played it like this. So you can see the last 2 notes, I'm actually using the open B and the open G string rather than using a B there and a G there. I'm actually going, and that gives my left hand plenty of time to get back down here. Sorry. And then I'll start the passage again. And to build up a bit of a chord that rings, I'll start with a couple of open strings, add on a couple of harmonics, and then I'll move into the country bend. Then, here's a trick, hit a note that is the major third of the next chord you're going to imply. So I'm going to go to C major now. So I hit E, which is the major third of C, and then my thumb hits the bass note. And just with those 2 notes, we imply a chord. Because that's all you need to imply a chord, the root and either the major or the minor third. So I then play the little lick in C. But the trick is, if you can, to keep the bass note ringing as long as you can. And then finally, for the last lick in D major, I used some popped harmonics and an open D string as a pedal tone to get from here to here. So I started off with a little D5, and then I used the open D string as a pedal to give me a chance to move into this F sharp, then pop some harmonics, and then a classic kind of country double stop, and then back to the G. So if I just play that again. And hopefully you can see how just that open D string makes moving from here to here so much smoother. And then the last little G major portion, finishing up on the classic root note and harmonic third. Because again, all you need to imply a chord is the root note, the tonic, and either your major or your minor third. This is G major chord. So we just need the root note, G, and count up 3, G, A, B, B is the major third. So you can see it's actually a really useful technique for getting all over the fretboard with some notes still ringing. Here's another little example. Instead of playing a descending lick like this, that doesn't sound like much, but if you incorporate some open strings, yeah, something like that, it sounds much nicer. So what I've done there is, instead of going from the F to the E, I go from the F to the open E string. Like that. Then I move on to the next bit of the lick, which starts on D. But when I go down to the G, instead of hitting a fretted G, I hit the open G string. Like that. And then I move on to F. Hit an open D after the E. Then C, D again. And what I like to do is at the beginning, leave the open D string ringing as long as possible, so it sounds like this. The trick is to kind of point your fingers more than you normally would, so you can hit a fretted note without killing the adjacent open string, because you need that to ring out. In that kind of fashion. So hopefully you can see how useful this technique can be. And to finish up, I'll just show you some other quick cool examples. Here's a classic way of bending two harmonics into a meaningful sort of chord. So this lick's in A major. If you hit an open A string and you hit the two 12 fret harmonics on the E and the B string, you've now got the notes A, high E and a high B. If you bend that B into a C sharp, you get a classic A major triad. So you can either do it single note like this, or you can play it more like a double stop. And in the same position, if you include the G string, you've got the notes G, B, E, which is useful on its own as a C major 7. But if you just bend that B up one semitone to C, you would then have the notes G, C, and E, which is a second inversion of a C major chord. So if you just hit all three harmonics and bend the B string up one semitone, and you can hear it's quite a pretty C major chord. If I put a bass note of C on there so you can hear what I mean. So there's that. And if you're using open strings, then you're not using your left hand at all. So your left hand can do some stuff behind the nut, and you can get kind of sounds like this. Like that. Here's another one, classic sort of G major triad. The trick when you're doing that kind of thing is bend behind the nut on one string while you've already moved on to another string. So if I play that really slowly actually, because it's hard to explain what I mean, but I'll hit the G bass note, then I'll hit G, D open string, then the open B string, and then I'll hit the open G string, and I'll bend up the B string while I'm hitting the D string. And that's kind of like quite a cool little country sounding thing, I think. So hopefully I've shown you some things that you can incorporate into your own playing. especially if you're interested in sort of playing in this kind of clean country rock kind of fashion. I'll leave you there. If you like this kind of video, check back to see what else I've put up, and thanks for watching.